How's it going? David Locke here, and trying something new in the ever-evolving world of the internet, social media, Locked On Jazz, interacting with you guys on a regular basis. I thought we'd try something new. We're going to call this Tip-Off. I'm going to try to do it with some regularity. We'll see whether or not it stays both. Today it's being recorded both as an audio file and as a webcam. How are you guys watching at the YouTube channel? DLock09. I might try to change that to Locked On Sports or Locked On Jazz for you. The tip-off is going to be a quick 5 to 10 minute audio file, video file in this case. I don't know why we're doing video other than you can see how ugly I am and all my kids' stuff over here or whatever else. But some people like the video. We're trying to figure it out. So as always, you guys, send me what you think and what you think are good ideas. The tip-off is going to be just 2 or 3 hot topics that are going on around the NBA, around the sports world, local sports, Jazz, obviously, as the primary focus. And I just wanted to start doing this with a little bit more regularity for you. See, and as we move into the offseason, do it a few times a week maybe, and we'll see. I don't know if it'll ever become an everyday thing. Again, as always, I want your feedback. I want to know what you want. So let's start the tip-off. I have no production. I have no sponsors. This is sponsorable. If you're a company owner, you want to be a part of the podcast world here, jump on. And, of course, by the way, make sure that you sign up, follow the podcast at Locked On Jazz at iTunes. The YouTube channel as well you can follow. And then remember Facebook. We haven't Locked On Sports is the Facebook channel, and it still allows for a lot of communication and things, and we should be hitting on that. So I appreciate it. All right, let's hit some of the top things today. Number one thing out there, I want your thoughts on this one. As I look at where the Jazz are, a dreadful performance against Washington, and clearly one of the worst performances, maybe up there in franchise history the other night. This team has certainly slipped and is there's just no question. It's undeniable right now that we're with the Minnesotas, the Sacramentos, the Washington, the Torontos, and the Clevelands. It's a tough reality to see right now. But to some extent, I wonder whether or not this justifies the trade of Deron Williams. And how can that be that we're this bad and it justifies the trade of Deron Williams? Well, I go back to the night in Denver when Mehmet Okur tore his Achilles tendon. And I got onto the bus that night, and I remember Harpering was there and Bowler was there. I don't think Booner was there. I mean, I was despondent. I have a tendency, as you guys know, to be a little overly emotional, but I was despondent. And I was thinking about it. I was looking, okay, Boozer's going to sign somewhere else. We kind of all thought that was going to happen. You've lost Memo, and at the time, I generally thought Memo's career could be over, and time's going to tell. I saw him the other day. He's just so down. It's such a bummer. And here the Jazz were, in my opinion, on the verge at the time of starting Fasenko and Millsap, or Kufis and Millsap. We covered it up a little bit by adding Jefferson and trying to get through that. But, really, when you start looking at it, you lost your starting center for the year in Memo. You lost Boozer, last year's starting power forward. You lost your small forward shooting guard in Wesley Matthews. And you lost Kyle Korver for the year. Karolinko is showing no ability to stay healthy. Maybe the reality was that run came to an end the night Memo tore the Achilles tendon. That's not Memo's fault, but there might be something to that. That just with Memo's inability to recover, the losses in free agency in the offseason, decisions we can debate up and down. Should Boozer have been given the max contract? Should the Jazz, in retrospect, have rolled out the max deal for Carlos Boozer? Should the Jazz have matched Wesley Matthews? Probably couldn't have signed Al Jefferson if you bring back Wesley Matthews just the way the money is. Lots of questions that have to be asked in those regards. But understanding, going back to that night that Memo tore the Achilles tendon and the amount of transition that took place in that offseason, was that really the night where this transition started? And the Jazz take advantage of Gordon Hayward of the ninth pick. I think it's going to be good. Actually, I'm certain. I kind of think Friday he'll start and may never leave a starting lineup for the next 10 years. And then you move Deron. And this has been the process. And now we're into it. We're into the Washingtons and the Sacramentos and the Minnesotas. And I mean, it's dreadful. And we can talk sometime about what it's going to take to get out of those and how long this takes and what are the pieces and that in one of the upcoming tip-offs. But maybe when you really look at it, the team had lost what? They were 4-13 in Darren's last 17 games. I mean, they were, I think, 4-10 in their last 14 with Jerry. This fade really may have taken place the day Memo turned ripped the tendon, the free agent offseason. They tried to cover it up. They did the best they could. They did a pretty reasonable job for the first 40 games. And then it really was time for Kevin O'Connor to take a really, really hard decision and decide, you know what, we don't have enough. We're not playing well. There's reasons we're not playing well. Guys haven't stepped up. Maybe it's as simple as the guys in the free agent signing for Raja didn't come back around. We've got to make the move now. And I watch this team right now, and I see how far away they truly are, and where we truly are in the NBA right now. And it makes me begin to wonder, boy, was that Darren Williams trade really much smarter than we realized? Could you imagine if you hadn't traded Darren and didn't make the playoffs? Just a thought on the tip-off. Let's talk about the coaching situation for a minute or two. This is kind of what the tip-off's going to be. Lets me talk about some of the other things going on as well. I still follow these. I find this a very interesting circumstance. First thing is how much of this is being dictated not by what's best for the program, but by what's best for Dr. Chris Hill. To me, the right hire, if Lon Kruger at UNLV isn't going to be available, that's a good hire. He's won everywhere he's been. Utah with the Pac-12 affiliations, a step up from UNLV. I'm not sure Lon can do any more than he's done at UNLV, though that is the best job in the world because you get the conference tournament at home. We've talked about that before. If you can't get it, if you're really talking Larry Kraskowiak, and I'm not sure that that's not just a situation where he created that himself. If you're not able to, if you're talking a Blaine Taylor out of Old Dominion, that's just not going to engage me a great deal. Then maybe this has to be a hire that's not about winning the press conference, not about Chris Hill justifying the fire of Jim Boylan. It's a very interesting situation for me because I'm not sure who's coming to Utah. It's a Pac-10 school. It's got some nice tradition. But it's entering the Pac-10 without a full deck of cards financially. It's not up to that Pac-10, Pac-12 status yet. It's entering the Pac-12 as a program that's got a bunch of financial problems. It's entering the Pac-12 as a program that's got a bunch of scholarship problems. And it's entering the Pac-12 without anything in its reservoir to pull from. It's not like you have Andrew Bogut the way that Ray Giacoletti took Andrew Bogut to the next level. It doesn't have the players Ray Giacoletti left for Jim Boylan. It's pretty bare. So who's coming? If it's a really good high-level coach, I would be surprised he would come to Utah right now. Because I think he would wait for the next job to become available, be it somewhere else in the Pac-12 or somewhere else in the Big 12 or Big 8.5, whatever the heck it is now. So I think that's the big question is who's willing to come. If you're really talking about pulling a coach whose experience is in Montana or something, then I think you have to really strongly consider going down the road to the University of Utah in down the road to Westminster from University of Utah, and consider pulling former Ute guard Tommy Connor. He wants this job. This is home. He would stay. Any other coach you're hiring, you're pulling up. If he has a great run, he's gone. Majerus stayed long because he was weird. I think when you start to look at some of the other elements of what Tommy could do, he could re-engage the alumni fan base. His staff that he's already kind of built is a bunch of former players and former coaches. This guy is a gamble. Chris Hill loses the press conference. Chris Hill gets some criticism for this. But I don't think the press conference and any of those things really matter for the University of Utah program. The only way I think the University of Utah program has any success in the long term is just winning. And they need to figure out who the coach is that's going to get them to win. The argument that, you can't take an NAIA coach and put him in the Division I. Why not? What's the difference between taking a guy who's just been an assistant in a program and putting him in there? If you're really in a long-term rebuild, why not do that? Why not get a guy who's LDS, who's got some background in the state, could recruit the local kids and compete with Dave Rose, who could then also go and with his pulling of coaches tied to the history as well as tie. Alex Jensen walks in the house and says, I played in the Final Four for this school. Butler and VCU have opened that door. I really think there's a strong move to be made for Tommy Connor as the next head coach of the University of Utah. And I'm just disappointed that I think Chris Hill is so concerned about winning the press conference with someone with Division I experience that he may not make the right move in that regard. Final note: Utah Jazz today signed Kyle Weaver, and I like him. He's 6'6", he's combo guard. He's very athletic. He's a great defender. He's tough as heck. He's got a little bit of that factor to him. Won an awful lot of Washington State. Hasn't shot well in his career, but I like him as a guy you take a look at for the final 7 or 8 games. It's a nice move. All right, that's the first edition of Tip Off. It might be the last. I don't even know if this is going to be any good, but mark it down. March 30th, 2011, Tip Off debuts on YouTube, on Locked On Jazz, on iTunes in this modern world. I have no idea whether you like it or not. But please send me emails directly at dlock@utahjazz.com. Send it through Axe Jazz, Facebook, wherever you want, and let me know what you think of the idea of tip-off. I'll try to hit a bunch of these, coming to you with a little bit more regularity, sometimes 3 minutes, sometimes 10. Today we're getting at 11, so let me get out of here. Have a good day. And again, we're available for sponsor. It's all about that, right? I'm just trying to keep a job, guys. Just trying to keep a job.